People who are involved with computer networking and love networking are often aware of a very high-level certification from Cisco called the CCIE. And also, they also are aware that most people who attempt the CCIE fail it at least once. In this video, I'd like to chat with you about my story back in the day, back in 2001, about my journey through the world of a 2-day exam for a CCIE and let you know how it went. So let's start at the beginning. When I first had the what if question about, oh, maybe I could become a CCIE, it started when I started the lower level certifications. So I started off with the CCNA, a Cisco Certified Network Associate in routing and switching, got that, and then I went to the next level, which is the CCNP, Cisco Certified Network Professional for routing and switching, got that, and then I went on to continue to study for a CCIE. I did all that in a span of about 2 years. I started my Cisco experience and Cisco training like in 1999, and I got my CCIE, my first one, in 2001. So here are some secrets that I learned along the way. When we're learning something new about networking, we should really take time to learn it, to know it, not just to memorize something. Because there were a few topics where I learned it once, or I thought I did, and then as I got to the professional level, I had to learn it again or reinforce it. And then when I got to the CCIE level, I realized, you know what, I don't think I really understood it as good as I could have. So one of the secrets in building a foundation is that no matter where we start, learn and take time to really understand it. And that involves reading something or watching something, getting some hands-on practice, verify that what you think is happening. Protocol analyzers are very helpful as well to help verify behind the scenes what's going on the wire. So that's a big tip from the beginning is when you're learning something, learn it to know it, not just to memorize something. Okay, so back in my day, when I took the CCIE exam, it was a 2-day format. And in that 2-day format, it went something like this. The first day we'd show up. My proctor was Catherine. She was great. So they assigned us some seats and they gave us a binder. And back in those days, we had this rack of equipment. Actually, it was to the, was it to the right? Was it to the right or to the left? I'm thinking it was in that lab experience, it was to my left. So I had this rack of gear here, and then my desk was here, and I had a notebook or a binder with the instructions. And part of the setup was we had to go ahead and cable. So they had patch panels where we cable everything. There was a net switch, there was a token ring switch, there were routers, of course, and we had to cable them all together. And then once they were cabled, then configure it. And we had a lunch break. So the first day, we'd have to do all the work, as much work as we could to get everything working. Then we took an organized lunch break together. They marched us over to this area and had us have lunch. Now, during lunch, we're not allowed to talk about, technical aspects of our lab and what we were asked to do. But I have a friend that I studied with, Ed, and he was sitting there at lunch, and I said, how's it progressing for you? No technical issues, but how's it going? He goes, great, I'm already to BGP. And I was thinking, oh my gosh, he's already doing border gateway protocol. I'm having problems with layer 2 connectivity on a switch. So I thought, oh man, I'm done. I am having so many problems. I can't even get basic trunking working. So I went back in after lunch and I verified that I could not get link. And so I went to Kathy and I said, Kathy, I think I have a physical cabling problem on the back end of the patch panel. I don't think it's me. And she said, oh, well, don't use that gigabit port. Go ahead and use the Ethernet port that's next to it. You can do that if you want to. And so I went back to my desk, okay. And then I realized on that model switch at that time in life, as far as the year of that switch, it didn't support trunking on a 10 megabit port, and that's what she invited me to do. So I just took a moment and I said, is this part of the test? And it wasn't. But I went back and I said, Kathy, listen, I have to trunk on that port, and if it's a different port, it's not going to be able to trunk if it's 10 megabits. And so she said, well, because it's already after lunch, and you should have pointed out a problem like this way earlier, and she was right, you can go behind if you want to where all the connections are from the patch panel to the gear, and you can verify those and change those, but I'm not going to give you any extra time. It's all on you now. So I did. I went back there, and sure enough, there's three connections that were wrong based on the topology and the diagram and what we were given. And so at that moment, I didn't realize why they were wrong, but I fixed them. I verified connectivity, got link, and then I was like flying through. So huge scare. So that was now working, and I was now pressed for time. Now before this, I had spent months and months of time and many hours in labbing up and practicing. And one item that Ed Yanez, who was my study buddy back in the 2000s, one thing that he did was he encouraged me to continue on when I was tired of studying. And one of those times was for IP telephony, voice over IP. Back in those days, we had to configure, or it was on the blueprint anyway, we had to configure phone ports, FXO, FXS, I forget which one it was, where you plug phones in, and so you'd pick up one phone and you could dial the other one, or you could pick up the phone and have it automatically ring down, or it's called private line automatic ring down the other phone. So I was near the end of my studies before the lab experience, the first day of this lab, and I said, I'm so tired of studying it. I'm good. I understand the concepts. I'm not going to configure it. He goes, dude, you got to configure the voice at least once to get the hands-on practice. So I did. I appreciate Ed. Thank you. Even to this day, I'm always grateful for Ed Yanez for helping me out. So I practiced it early on, and then for the day of the lab, I was pressed for time. And when it wasn't a buzzer, but when the time was up, you had to stop. And I had just a few minutes left, and then I had voice. It's one of my last tasks that I had gotten to. So I was just flying through configs one time, save, all the way across all the routers and switches. And then I thought, okay, I got to pick up this phone. And if I pick up this phone and the other one rings, I have a possibility of going on tomorrow. Because what happens is you have to get so many points on day one. And if you don't get enough points towards what they ask you to do, they ship you home. You go home. They don't continue. So I picked up the phone, and the other one rang, and I thought to myself, this is a good moment. This is a good moment, because I had all the problems with the cabling, and I was pressed for time, and it rang. So all night, so I went home to the hotel, or went back to the hotel. I was in San Jose, and I sat awake for many, many hours thinking of all the configs I did. Did I check this? Did I do that? And just my mind was just racing. And I thought, I need to just go to sleep, and I need to get up tomorrow and give myself enough time to get back to San Jose, or to the testing center in San Jose for Cisco, and hit it again fresh. So I woke up, I set the alarm, I woke up, and then I realized, this is 2001, I realized after I was up that the clock was off an hour. I don't know why. So maybe it was an accident or whatever, but the clock gave me an extra hour. This is good news. So it gave me an extra hour of time to prepare. So I looked over, back in those days, we had to do token ring switching, data link switching, IPX, SPX, in addition to ATM and IP, of course. So we had lots and lots of things. So I took that extra hour and I sat down and I just reviewed a bunch of commands and configurations. So as we march ourselves in there, we go in the lobby, day 2. Everybody's there. They don't tell you who failed yet, and they're going to cut by a certain percentage. So Ed is there, I'm there, there's probably 12 other 13, somewhere between 10 and 14 people total there. And they invite us back, so we march back in. And then as we go back to our desks in the lab environment, the way it works is this. If there's a binder on your desk, you get to continue. If there's no binder on your desk, you're done. And the proctor can come over and say something to you, and then you basically get a new flight home, or you wait till your flight later that day, and you're done. Very disappointing. So my last name is Barker, starts with a B. So I was near the front. In fact, I was like this first or second desk, up near in the lab. Anyway, so I walk in, all excited and eager, worried, thinking a million thoughts. And I go to my desk, I sit down, there's no binder there. So actually I wasn't quite sitting. So I was standing at the desk, no binder. I thought, oh, that happens sometimes, right? It happens. Things don't always go our way. So I sat down at the desk like it was yesterday. And this person, I'm so sorry, but this person comes up to me and says, buddy, you're at my desk. And I look up and I realized I had been one row off. I got up, I said, I'm so sorry. And I saw my book up there on the desk in front of me, and I thought, that's my desk, and it's got a binder. So my major thought was for myself at that moment, self-preservation. I get to continue. And so, yeah, goosebumps again. Good experience. So I sat there at my desk with my binder. I opened it up, and I had things like multicast I was going to configure. I smoked that. I just nailed it. Several other things I had to configure, did those well because I didn't have any unexpected challenges or problems. And then then it's not quite over yet, because then at lunchtime, they sent us all to lunch. In those days, that second lunch was, you could go wherever you want, be with a group, doesn't matter. The first day, it was all like quarantine. But anyway, so we went to lunch at some restaurant with whoever was left, and there was like maybe less than half of us left. And the way it worked is, during that lunch break, they would look at your work from the first half of that day, and they would identify whether or not you had enough points to continue in the afternoon. And if you don't, they pick you off at the door. And so, so I walked back. We go to lunch. We're all on pins and needles. We're walking. Oh, also, well, I won't tell you about that because that's Ed's personal story. He can tell you another time. Maybe I'll interview him and he'll tell you his story. We were walking back in, and as we're walking back in, we're like, no eye contact with Kathy, no eye contact. So we walk in, and she's picking people off at the door. Hey, John, or whatever your name is, I need to talk to you, need to talk to you, need to talk to you. And that means you're done. And so I'm walking in, and the emotion's not going to help at this point. It's either going to happen or not happen. And I didn't get picked off. So it was Ed, myself, I think one other person out of this group of 12 or 14 that started that were left. So the tail end, the second half of the second day, was troubleshooting. And what they did was they injected problems into everybody's labs. Some were physical problems, like they would have, what I learned after the fact, sometimes they'd take a connector and they would turn it over upside down 180 degrees and force it in so it looks like it's connected, but it's the wrong pins. Sometimes they would change the actual connections in the back. And I assume, even today, I assume that's what happened to my lab, my rack. I assume that some poor person made it to the second day of their lab before I got there. And he made it to the second day, and they changed some cables on him, and he never solved it because and then they forgot to put him back. That's what I'm still thinking happened today. So I think Kathy at that point had a little soft spot for me because she realized all the work and troubleshooting I had to do early on and how much I had to fly through. But they would do, so they inject problems, configuration issues, a lot of great problems. Oh my goodness. And what they asked us to do is identify, I think it was 5 or 10 things that are wrong with the lab and correct them. And then actually we had to write out what they were. So this is this, and here's the solution. And as I recall it, I think we fixed them all too. So I was going through that process thinking, okay, I don't want to point out maybe something I failed on as a task that I didn't get perfect earlier in my config as a problem now. So I was just looking for differences, and I found them. So I thought, oh, this isn't working. Oh, and it was basic troubleshooting. It was just, that part was the easiest part of the whole, the lab certification for me, because I just said, this isn't working, should be, let's trace it down. Okay, we don't have the route, that's why. Or this BGP route filter isn't correct. Or this access control list is here. Or this process ID has been manipulated in a poor way so it matches another one on the same device. Yeah, so I use basic troubleshooting. Do I have layer 2 connectivity? Do I have layer 3 connectivity? And am I blocking any layer 4 protocols that shouldn't be? So I identified those, solved them, handed in my paper, and then in those days, before you left, and this is in the 2-day format, before you left, if you passed, they gave you a piece of paper with your freaking number on it. So I'm 6783. So with CCIEs, they start, there's a really cool story there, but around the low 1000s is where it starts number-wise, and I was 6783, meaning less than 6,000-ish people in the world at that point had a CCIE. And I think now there's, if you look online, there's a lot more than that now. So anyway, I'm 6783. Ed, I think, was 6784. We have numbers right next to each other. And I'm eternally grateful for Ed for helping me in taking that extra step, even though I thought, oh, I've studied hard, I've studied enough, that extra step. The joy that I felt after realizing that all that work that I had put in finally paid off was totally worth it. And I did pass the CCIE route switch in 2001 on my very first attempt. And it was only due to a lot of work, a lot of study, and a lot of encouragement from a friend. So now the CCIE lab, the practical lab, is 1 day. Still, I believe, just as hard in a slightly different way. So it's no easier than it was in 2001. It's hard, hard, hard. And it's set up to identify how many people know their stuff. Did you practice? Do you know it? Can you? And the benefit of that is having those skills is that when we take those skills and we go out in the production world and we can solve those skills. Like a lot of times companies don't need to hire a CCIE to configure switches, but sometimes they do, because it's when the problems arise and the integration and the communication between multiple devices, when those problems show up, you need the expertise to go ahead and solve those problems. So anyway, that's my that's my CCIE story. I also will finish this off by saying in 2003, when I went to go get my second CCIE in security, I went in with the wrong attitude. And the wrong attitude goes something like this. Oh, I'm a CCIE. It's one of the few times in my life that I felt this way. I'm a CCIE. I can knock this out of the park. I can, add my IPsec. They had some PIX firewalls and ACE, Access Control Server, ACS, and TAC Action Radius, and I can integrate those. You know what kicked my butt on my first attempt for CCIE security? It was BGP, because I thought, oh, I got that down. So I was good on the security stuff, but I had let my core routing and switching skills, which were also needed to make the whole network function, I'd let those slip. So I shall take a few more moments and tell you the rest of the story, because it's a pretty good one. So I failed it. I was like, oh, poor me. Yeah, poor me. I wasn't prepared. I just didn't do enough preparation to go take the exam. So a period of time later, I forget how many months, there was a waiting period for taking it again. So I had a waiting period. I studied up. I went back in, took it again, and failed it again. And again, I thought, okay, I'm done. I don't need a second CCIE. I don't need it. I don't need it. So the proctor who I met at Cisco Live following that, whatever year that was, I guess it would be like 2003-ish, somewhere in that year. I saw him and I told him, oh yeah, that was so unfair. Let me tell you this, proctors for CCIE, they've heard all these stories. And the reality is the test is freaking hard. They want it to be hard. They want you to prepare and just be really good at your game so you can pass. And if you're really good and you fail, that's unfortunate, but you're going to try again and do it again and pass. So he said, I thought it was graded wrong. And he was very kind. He goes, you know what, if you come and take it again, totally up to you, I will put a second set of eyes on it regarding the grading, just to verify that the automated system is grading it correctly and everything else. So I put on my big boy pants and I said, okay, I'll do it. And I went back and I prepared really hard. I mean, I prepared really, really hard for that. And so I went back and I got my second CCIE in 2003 in security. And one of the cool things is that it used to be you have to wait like sometimes 24 hours or over the weekend to get your results for the one-day format. And by the time I got to the airport in San Jose to fly home, I looked online just because I was like anxious, and I had my report. So I logged in into my Cisco account and boom, I was double CCIE. They give you the same number. So my CCIE number is 6783, and it's just that I have 2 CCIEs associated with that. So that's my story. Is something like that worth it? And I would say getting the skills at that level is absolutely worth it. Most of the people that I know who have studied and gotten the skills and demonstrated those skills by getting a CCIE will tell you it's absolutely worth it. And it's not just the number, it's not just the paper, it's not just the recognition for being a CCIE, it's the skills. It's the skills. My routing and switching skills in 2001 were incredible. In 2003, when I got that second CCIE and I had to rethink everything, incredible. And today, I teach most of the time today, but I still lab up a ton. And so my routing and switching skills and my security skills today are still rock solid. And as I learn new things with cybersecurity and the advances that hackers are taking to compromise our integrity of our systems and to get in, it just continues to give me an opportunity to get better and better and better, because the world needs us. We need to protect our networks. We need to take simple steps and then sometimes complex steps, including using security intelligence from the cloud to defeat the hackers and prevent them from getting access to our data. So that's a lot longer of a video and a story than I intended to, but I wanted to share it with you. If that's of interest to you, I hope you enjoyed it. So my takeaway that I want you to take away from this story is that if you're studying anything new and you're gaining that knowledge, don't just learn it to learn it. So I can memorize something and repeat something. Learn it to know it. And then as you build that foundation, whatever the skill is, it could be IT, it could be automotive, it could be music, it could be voice, whatever it is, as you build those skills, you can keep those and continue to build and build and build. and make your world a better place. Be more valuable to your family, to your loved ones, to your employer, and be a better overall resource to everyone around you. And that's going to make the world a better place eventually as well. So thanks for watching this video, and I'll see you, my friend, in the next one. Have a great day. So Weezer is performing again at Cisco Live this year, 2019 in San Diego. If you are going, look me up. I'm going to be teaching a session with Jason Gooley, and you can reach me via social media. So if you're at Cisco Live 2019, look me up. I'd love to meet you.